Alright, what's the most annoying character trait in a player character? This is a team sport. The campaign follows the adventures of the party. Players are required to create and play characters who want to adventure with the party and who would be accepted as a member of the party. Most inappropriate PCs violate one or both of these rules. Creating and playing a character who doesn't really want to adventure or doesn't want to adventure with the party is annoying as hell for the other players because now they have to play your convince my PC to go on the adventure minigame before they can play D&D. It's not anyone else's job to convince you to play D&D. Well, why would my PC want to go on the adventure? Is a question for you, not anyone else. Creating and playing a character who would not be accepted as a member of the party is even worse. If we use your example of the player whose PC declares themselves the leader of the group and routinely insults others, that player is effectively demanding that the other players play their PCs as people who would put up with that nonsense. And honestly, that's just rude. I want to play an asshole PC. Oh, so that you guys all have to play your PCs as doormats or morons. Well, that's just rude. Becoming the literal personification of your alignment. No, being chaotic evil doesn't mean you have to always do the absolute worst possible thing to another character at every opportunity. No, being lawful good does not mean you have to be an overbearing, self-righteous zealot. And no, being true neutral does not mean you can abstain from engaging with the plot and leave your team hanging whenever a tough moral choice has to be made. A refusal to embrace the core concept of the game, which is, we are heroic adventurers. I had one player who just couldn't understand why his character would want to be adventurous. I'm a druid. I want to stay and protect my grove. Okay then, roll up a new character who wants to hang out with the rest of the PCs. How about unawareness? Obliviousness? Anyone who leaves the table for a while and comes back, then immediately does something without getting an update on the context can be accidentally annoying. We had spent about an hour of real-time wooing and placating the druid, keeping us captive on a land of the lost type island. Just when we clinched a negotiated freedom, a player returned to the table from a long phone call, took one look at the villain, and socked them in the face. Half the party tried to protect the druid, the other half stood up for the pixie. It suddenly became a full-blown PvP that no one was emotionally prepared for. In the end, it was quite enjoyable, though people had to work through hating each other for a little while. I guess we can all be annoying given or taken out of the right context. Meme PCs with only one joke that's only funny the first time. Mean, uncooperative PCs that hate everyone and never develop past that, especially if the player is one of those "that's what my character would do" types. Family Guy PCs. What I mean is PCs from players who think it's funny to be living caricatures or relentless sex fiends. The PC is really just the player and knows stuff that the PC shouldn't. One of mine is Pacifism. A pacifist character generally doesn't mesh with a system that is 70% combat. Someone could potentially make a character that really hinders the party's ability to resolve conflict. That's usually the difference between looking for a peaceful solution first and sabotaging the party's attempts to defend themselves and others. I will admit I played a character like this and I played it quite poorly. Incompetence. Players thinking that a character who isn't good at the thing they are supposed to be good at is somehow good roleplay. Here's something I haven't seen mentioned yet. The "I'm a dum-dum" or "I'm too innocent" archetype, where the character deliberately makes bad decisions and purposefully disregards social cues to play a character who's just there to be funny. This results in the party constantly having to make excuses for their companion's behavior, like they're a dog who just pissed on the floor. An odd one. Any trait that is meant to eventually evoke change in the character, but never does. Now, for example, a common trope in fiction is a character that starts out very distrustful, and then slowly begins to trust their allies. But I often see characters that seem to emulate this, yet at level 16, after 2 years of a campaign and countless adventures together, they still act like they can't trust the rest of the party. Or a character that starts out cowardly and not cut out for adventuring, but then slowly becomes more confident, finding their own strength and purpose. Yet somehow, when they're tier 4 and could topple kingdoms by themselves, they still act like fighting a single goblin is deadly and outrageous. Speaking in a really annoying voice or in an annoying way. If someone plays a warlock and constantly acts like an otherworldly entity needs to Batman voice their way through interactions, good luck finding another table. I learned my lesson and I'm not going to let you do that here. Diametrically opposed but equally annoying. PCs who don't want to go on an adventure or be in the party. Like, my brother in Bahamut, why are you here? That player needs to make a new character ASAP and stop bogging the party down. PCs who are too eager to go on an adventure and insist on talking to everyone and rolling on everything like, my guy, let other people have their moments to shine. This game is for all of us, not just you. You obviously have the Hall of Famers, the easy ones that inherently mess up the flow of the game. Lone wolves, pacifists, kleptomaniacs, any iteration of a character that consistently makes bad decisions to the detriment of the party. To the detriment of the party being the big one, after all. At some point, one of the guys has to say, I want to touch the diabolical glowing gloves that says evil ass punching gloves! The one I find most annoying is the purely player-driven character. Now, what I mean by that is that the character essentially bends and morphs to whatever the player feels in that exact moment, with no consideration for actual role-playing. As a DM, I try to steer people away from that because whenever they ignore me, it never goes well. For instance, I try connecting the PC's behaviors to their backstory and encourage the player to push those aspects of the character harder. But they ignore it for whatever reason. It never ends well and usually leaves the player frustrated with their own character because they refuse to give their character an actual personality. I have experienced very different characters with very different traits being extremely annoying. Now, in my opinion, it's less about the trait and more about how it's actually played. A pacifist character, for example, like those that have been mentioned here, can work out okay if they are just not comfortable using violence themselves and have chosen an appropriate class for supporting the party. But if they constantly whine about how it's evil to use violence and insist they should talk to the beholder first, then it gets annoying. A nerdy wizard can be perfectly fine, or annoying as heck if they barge into everything and want to control how others act because they know better. In the end, I feel it's way more about the player's sense, or lack thereof, for moderation, and whether they can prioritize, we're all trying to have fun and play together, over, but this is how my character would act. Even a character who doesn't really want to be with the party can work if you talk with the other players beforehand and agree that the character will end up part of the group, but want some character development first. For something like this, you need clear communication and must work towards the same goal. Not having the party chase someone who enjoys making them run after them and refuses to comply. Yes, I've had those players too. The most annoying character trait, huh? Rigid morality, particularly if the rest of the party includes the usual roster of cheats, thieves, and general shifty characters. Doubly so if you're not playing a paladin, since paladins at least have a reason to be morally rigid or they'll lose their powers. This applies to any character whose moral compass is skewed away from the rest of the party. A paladin in a party of scoundrels, like mentioned before, can cause trouble. This is true. But so can a single psychopathic murder hobo in a party of traditional heroes. Of course, you can make this dynamic work, but doing so requires compromise, such as the paladin looking the other way, or the murder hobo not stabbing people the rest of the party would prefer remain unstabbed. When a character decides that they hate someone in the party and never fail to make a jab or accusation toward the other character. It can be roleplay based and used for character development, and it can be fun if agreed between two players. But I wish people would ask the other player first if they are okay with their character being a target of inter-party animosity. I was in that situation once as a new player, and I didn't have the courage to talk it out with the other player. My relationship with that girl was great outside the game, and I knew it was her character, not her, just the way she wanted to roleplay. She always praised my character and my RP skills outside the table, so I knew my character didn't actually annoy her. But I had a lot of anxiety and self-esteem issues at the time. So, coming to the game knowing that my character would always piss someone off and get roasted by a party member was emotionally taxing. I wish I had been older and more mature at the time, so I could have brought it up and asked to tone the animosity between our characters down for my mental health's sake. It was years ago, and no longer relevant though. Essentially, the asshole with a heart of gold trope. A lot of PCs think they're Gimli. Slightly abrasive, but clearly likable. But they're really just abrasive and expect other characters to reach out to them for what's wrong. But after being cussed out or insulted, it's kind of hard as either a PC or DM to justify why any character would do so. Extorting other players. Keeping loot and wanting other players to pay for it so you'll hand it over. Just stop playing a cooperative team game. Why would anyone, in-game or out-of-game, put up with such a person? Fun fact, they wouldn't. The cool one that is played straight without a hint of irony. The kind of character that always has a Marvel quip ready to ruin the tension and a smoke in the other hand. I cannot help but see them as pathetic losers. And the more the player tries to come across as cool, the more pathetic it becomes. Still, they tend to be power fantasies for the player involved, so it's just something I keep quiet about. Honestly, no need to ruin their fun. Though I do wish the character weren't so common and was played for laughs by a more self-aware player more often. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, if you want to help us keep the lights on and the furnaces running this winter, you're more than welcome to join our membership program. You don't have to, but it would be a huge boon to us. You get early access to vids, maybe some other goodies too. We're working on that. In the meantime, just be as happy and healthy as you possibly can be, and we'll see you in the next video. Love ya.